with Greg and Richard right here on Talking Red.
Hello and welcome to Talking Reds, a Nottingham Forest podcast. And welcome to our very special Nottingham Forest Player of the Season Award episode.
Here's Anderson breaking forward. And he fires it in from just Anthony Alanga onto it, running centrally from the edge of the penalty area, slots it past the goal. White, Gibbs White, left nudge. Lovely finish again. Magnificent save from Marcel. That is a brilliant save. It's the Forest captain Ryan Yates who gives his side the lead after 16 minutes. Wood inside left channel, great chance! Yes! Forest are ahead! It's Chris Wood! Channel, he fires it across. Milinkovic is in it! This one will count! Milinkovic scores again! Nico Williams eventually with it. He's pushed. Yes! Scoops it into the top corner of the net. From the edge of the penalty area, left footed all the line. It has absolutely blasted that into the top corner.
I'm your host, Greg Oram, and alongside me as ever, we have from Oklahoma, the Oklahoma Kid, Richard Spray. How you doing, buddy?
Yeah, good. Yeah, oh man, just running those all back just brings goosebumps, doesn't it? It's just been a brilliant season. Wow.
Well, the montage of Colin Frey, I use him a lot, but the names that he was calling out there are going to feature in today's episode. And in fact, before we even get started, I have to say, there's going to be one or two players that might be feeling quite aggrieved because they're not going to feature. We've asked our group of contributors to get involved. It's been a remarkable season for Nottingham Forest, and it is true that you could make a case for practically all of the players to win the accolade award as player of the season. So, as I say, with that in mind, we asked the Talking Reds contributors to put forward who they thought, each of them, was most deserving of the award. And because the list is so big, Richard, it's a season like no other. I remember the dark days in the Championship when we were struggling to find one player who might be player of the season. But this year, the list is endless. So there's going to be one or two that miss out. Going to get straight into it. We're going to start with the first nomination. This is a player who has really made a position his own out of nowhere. We're going to introduce Raf, the random pundit, and he is going to be putting forward his choice of Nico Williams.
Hey there, fellow trickies, on a super sunny Wednesday. It's Raf, the random pundit here, just checking in with you for favourite player of the season. And my gosh, what a task this is. Unbelievable season, and there are honourable mentions out here. You could be picking pretty much anyone from the back five, i.e. keeper and back four. Could be Anderson, could be Wood. Honestly, it's just such a long list. But I am plumping for Nico Williams. And those that know me well, this is a somewhat of a kind of backstabbing on Ola, which I do massively apologise to him. I still absolutely love you, Ola, but this season it has been Nico Williams that has shaded Ola for me, and it's been absolutely phenomenal. Reasons why, and we're not supposed to be delving into data, but at a really high level, Nico Williams' defensive data on anything that you look at is better than Ola's, and he actually shades him in attacking as well, which when you see how good Ola is, and he's touted as the best right back in the league at the moment, that actually tells you without bias how good Nico is. I love him. He's been with us for 3 seasons. He signed on my birthday back in 22. And he was signed for 17 million quid. A lot of people really questioned that. We look back now and that 17 million pounds looks like an absolute snip. And what I've got to say is every season he's just got better and better. And if it wasn't for that jaw injury, I think he'd be even further along his development career than he is now, having just turned 24, which is still bonkers if you think about it, of how good he is. I genuinely think by the age of 26, he's definitely a non-sell, even though his value over the 17 million is probably now somewhere near his age, his ability, probably 50 million or so, but he's definitely not one we want to sell. By 26, he will be probably one of the best fullbacks in the Premier League, if not in Europe. I genuinely think so. His rate of improvement. But it's not just that, it's his football intelligence. You see him in games, okay, and he may not have the best start to a game. He's up against someone super tough, but his football brain to adapt and get stronger through the game is absolutely amazing. And he's done it time and time again. He's so intelligent, which is just such a valuable trait in a player. And what I would say as well is that in this Premier League, in this modern game, fullback has got to be the most difficult position to play. You're asked to be basically a wing back. You've got massive defensive duties. You've got massive attacking duties. You have to be probably the fittest player on the pitch. And you don't really get subbed that much, actually, compared to other players. And so, like, it really is a massive ask. And the fact that we've got Ola and him shining just shows how amazing they are. And what I would say is, on an attacking sense, in the Premier League right now, the main threat, and Palmer's gone cold, and you've got Haaland that's injured, but you look at your Salahs, you look at your Rodgerses, you look at your Semenyos, you look at your Bowens, you know, all of that, Sakas, they're all threats that come down the wings. And that's what the fullbacks have to deal with. So it is a huge task that they're doing, and Nico has absolutely smashed it out of the park. So for me, Nico Williams, you are my man for this season. Come on, you Reds.
So Raf making the case for Nico Williams. And again, I'll keep repeating it. It's such a difficult choice to make because they've all been so good. But on Nico, Richard, we're going to have a quick word on each. He's made that left back position so safe and solid for us. And the whole defensive unit, we know how good they've been this season. He was fighting for his place a couple of times in his Forest career already, but he's come through time and time again. He's a player we need to keep hold of, right?
Oh my gosh, yeah. I mean, he's 24 years old. He's an international player for Wales. I mean, I think unheralded is probably, and not spoken of, as one of the most versatile players, because that guy plays about every midfield position, could play virtually every midfield position, and both fullback positions without even blinking an eye and losing any traction. So yeah, he's an incredible player, and it's amazing how quietly he goes about his business. There was a great American football player called Steve Atwater, and he had the best nickname ever. His name was Silent Assassin. I feel like that's how Nico is. He's sort of a silent assassin. He just does things in such a humble and unsung way. Doesn't make a big stink if he doesn't get playing time. At least the last couple of seasons we've seen, for whatever reason, he sort of fell out of favor. But when he came back in, he was even better. And as Raph alluded to, he's just continued to accelerate from a growth standpoint. So it's amazing to see what will come as well. I mean, I could certainly see him captaining Wales at some point because he's got the right attitude. He just puts his head down and works. And so, yeah, brilliant footballer.
Fantastic. Okay. So we're going to give everyone via our X account, our Twitter account, the chance to vote for who they think is the player of the season. So we're not going to choose an outright winner today between us because it's just too difficult to do that. So if you like the sound of what Rafa's had to say about Nico, note it. We're going to move on to the next one. And a couple of our contributors now wanted to put forward the outstanding Matt Sells. So over to Bruce and the Garibaldi Bard.
What's going on, guys? This is Bruce here in Texas, or as Greg likes to say, howdy, y'all, with my player of the season vote. This was obviously very tough. We've had a lot of players step up and play consistently good for us throughout the season. But I kept on going back to one in particular that has stepped up, helped stabilize the position where we desperately needed it. In a position that we've seen a lot of turnover in as well. To me, it's Matt Sells. Matt Sells has been top of the league in clean sheets, He's number 4 currently in save percentages, and along with Milinkovic, really came in and helped make that back line, that defense, one of the best in the Premier League. And not only that, he's had so many amazing saves, contenders for saves of the month. So Matt Sells, to me, obvious choice, player of the season.
Myself and Bowie here have been talking, and we both believe that Matt Sells is the Nottingham Forest player of the season with his massive hands and immovable hair. That's mainly because, most clean sheets in the Premier League this season for a start. That's despite having the 4th most shots against him, which, Milinkovic, you're welcome. And also the FA Cup heroics, 3 different penalty shootouts. What more can I say?
Hard to disagree when you have Bruce and the Garibaldi Bard and Bowie, the dog, putting forward such a great claim for Matt Sells in the middle of our goal with his immovable hair. Look, I know that the goalkeeper position is an area that such a hot topic. And we said, didn't we, a year ago that we really didn't think, you and I spoke about this a lot, that we thought that Matt Sells had it solved. And he was getting a lot of heat from different places and certain people on different platforms. And, I just felt there was a good goalkeeper in there. And I'm not trying to say, aren't I right? But he's far exceeded anything I thought he was probably capable of. And I think he's got to make the Premier League team of the season. Just briefly, where are you on Matt Sells, Rich?
Yeah, you and I have been lockstep on this the whole time. At first it may have seemed like, okay, can the floor get any lower because we had Matt Turner, Vlachodimos, those kinds of things, and the performance level is just atrocious and too many errors, too many sort of nervy moments. And he came in with that calm, cool, collected demeanor, and his how he manages the goal is just phenomenal. And yeah. I mean, I know Dan and Raf have gone into a multitude of analytics looking at, types of saves that he has to make. And there was some questions around, can he only really make the most difficult saves, but the sort of basic things he doesn't make look basic. But in reality, I think he's been incredible. And the development that he's had to come back from playing in the Premier League at one time, coming back to the Premier League under the auspice of Nuno and the tutelage of Nuno clearly has made a big difference to him, just giving him confidence. And you go into any match at this stage, I would say, and you never fear that he's going to be a weak link in any way, shape, or form. And that kind of thought process for me is a stark difference from the second season. I mean, that was just, thank goodness. And that was a heck of a piece of work in the transfer window in January for them to bring him in, because he has absolutely been tremendous. And he's solidified that number 1 position. I mean, at this stage, I don't see any reason anyone could supplant him, or we would need to. So I'm with you.
He's made unbelievable saves. He's been up for save of the month 2 or 3 times, I think it is.
Yeah.
So I think Clough was the one that always said, if you don't have a good goalkeeper, then it doesn't get you anywhere. You got to have a good goalkeeper. And we certainly got that. So, yeah, it'd be interesting to see what happens in the summer, whether they think the goalkeeper department needs strengthening. But for this season, Bruce and Jack, the Garibaldi Bard, have put forward Matt Sells as their player of the season. Let's move on then. So, next player. A year ago, we were involved in one of the deals of the century when the club started helping each other out to circumvent some PSR. And lo and behold, we were fortunate enough to inherit, because, well, not maybe inherit, we had to pay for it. A certain Geordie Maradona came down to the City ground, and he's just gone from strength to strength to strength. So here's Holly from the Forest Women Fancast and friend of Talking Reds, and Ross over in Texas with their player of the season, Elliot Anderson.
My player of the season for 2024-25 is Elliot Anderson, our Geordie Maradona. He has been an absolute inspiration in midfield this season. We've been really, really lucky to have him. Absolutely tireless, passes with poise and precision, a complete midfield maestro, can play anywhere pretty much in the middle of the park. I think the contribution that he's given us this season has really gone understated, and he's only going to get better and better. And for me, in terms of potential, in terms of the link up that he's had and the dynamism and the versatility that he has provided in midfield this season, I'm going to give a massive shout for Elliot Anderson. Thanks, guys.
Hey, Talking Reds, it's Ross here in Texas, making my Player of the Year case for a truly transformational player this season. He's enabled us to do things that we've not been able to do in the Premier League in the past, and that's been able to take the ball on the half turn, break through the lines, and really transition fast. With 78 tackles this season, and he's been dispossessed less than Morgan Gibbs-White and Bukayo Saka. Elliot Anderson is an absolute rock star. Not only should he be Player of the Year, but he should be Young Player of the Year for the whole league. He has been exceptional. 22 years old, carrying a £35 million price tag, albeit with some interesting adjustments for Vlachodimos. Either way, whether he's 20 million, 35 million, 55 million, he's brilliant. He's been epic this season. Absolutely a talisman in the midfield, giving us drive and guile, having the tenacity of a warrior, but having the guile of a winger. He's been an absolutely incredible asset. 8 goal involvements, exceeding his XG. He is truly the player that I feel that has been the game changer for Forest this season and should be highly recognised. So well played, Elliot Anderson. I'm a total fanboy, and I hope you get Player of the Year.
Both Holly and Ross making fantastic cases there, Richard, for Elliot Anderson. I mean, I didn't realise how good he was. I didn't know much about him because, you know, he was a bit of a fringe player at Newcastle. And when they sold him, their fans and their manager were openly gutted about having to lose him. He's been a real joy to have in the team, hasn't he? And he's going to be in the England squad, we hope.
Oh gosh, yeah. I mean, he's right on the cusp right now. I think. Yeah, it's interesting for us to call him a talisman because we've attributed that moniker to some other players on our squad, right? Yeah, I know that stat was thrown out there on X the other day, and I was blown away by that. I shouldn't be, because optically and just sort of what we've watched, because we've all watched those matches multiple times over. He's got the most duels won in the entire Premier League, which is unbelievable for a guy in his position. And he's such an interesting player too, because you could very easily see how definite it seems he is in that 8 position going forward for us as a future star, like Ross and Holly both alluded to. But he's also has the capability of moving into a 10 position. He can play wing. I mean, there's a lot that he can do. And on the ball, I just don't think there's anybody, maybe Callum, that is as good and as skilled as he is in terms of taking players on and getting around them. You know, shooting has to get better, but you know that'll come with time. But the fact that he's got 3 goals and 7 assists in his first full season in the Premier League with not much time logged in the Premier League to date, it just goes to show I can't imagine what he's going to look like next season. It's going to be incredible with another offseason under his belt. He's gotten used to the speed of the game a little bit more. He's gotten used to the physicality of the game a little bit more. And he's not easy to move off the ball. When he shields that ball, there's very few players that get him off that ball. And as Ross alluded to, dispossess him, which is such a huge thing too, because he maintains possession and he gets that ball moving forward. He's very forward thinking, which is great.
Yeah, absolutely. So Elliot Anderson there, another outstanding season in the Garibaldi Red, and the choice of Holly and Ross for Player of the Season. Let's go on to our next one. And a player who has come into the club from Brazil. We knew nothing about him. And since his debut, and then that weaving magical run away at Crystal Palace last season, that showed us that this centre-back is more than just a centre-back. He is finesse on the ball. He has got a goal in him somewhere that's going to exasperate us at some point. And of course, I'm talking about the fantastic Murillo. And Scott from Down Under is here to talk about our Brazilian legend.
It is Scott here from Nottingham Forest, Australia supporters group. G'day, you flying mongrels. You will see the flag here behind me. This was flying proud at Wembley on Sunday. Unfortunately, it wasn't our day. But look, we go again. We've got Brentford this Thursday. So come on, Forest, let's do it. I need to talk to you about something very serious. We are talking around Forest Player of the Season. Now, there are a whole lot of candidates, as you can imagine, because we've had such a good season. I'm actually going to go for a bit of a left field choice. I'm actually going to go for Murillo. And I'm going to go for Murillo for 3 key reasons. The first reason is his defensive prowess and consistency. Point 2, his tactical intelligence and leadership. And number 3, his recognition from peers and experts. So number 1, defensive prowess. He's been the cornerstone, really, of the Forest defence. He's made 152 clearances. He's second in the Premier League, and he's made a lot of, I think, league appearances. He's made 26 league appearances. So he's doing very well. His consistency is excellent. His ability to read the game with his physical attributes make him a fantastic player, and one which we have really done well with. So that's the defensive prowess and consistency. Tactical intelligence and leadership. So Murillo has really flourished under Nuno. He's come with really a really solid defensive partnership with Milenkovic. Them together, they have been instrumental in Forest's defensive stability. I think the fact that he can anticipate threats, he can make crucial interventions, often at pivotal moments, has really made him a key player for us. He's had a clearance off the line as well, so he's done very well in that category. Also, recognition from peers and experts. So he was actually player of the season last year. So obviously he's consistent. He's been consistent this year too. We've also had a lot of interest from other top clubs as well. Real Madrid, we're having a look. Chelsea, other teams as well have been sniffing around him. You don't usually gain that sort of interest unless you are a top player and you are playing particularly well. So he's doing very well. So for those reasons, that is why I am going for Murillo as Forest Player of the Season. Thanks, Talking Reds.
Thanks very much indeed, Scott from Down Under. Murillo, the reigning player of the season from last year, as Scott says, hardly puts a foot wrong, although there was a foot wrong, I guess, at home to Everton. I'm not trying to single him out at all, but 1 or 2 mistakes across the pitch in different areas, or perhaps been the reason why we've dropped off. And we're recording this the day before we play West Ham. So we're right at the end of the season when we're sitting in 7th place, and it looks like we're going to be in Europa League, hopefully, pending a Man City win later in the FA Cup. Could be conference, outside chance of Champions League. But all these players as a collective, Richard, have been the reason why we've got to the really good position we're in. So to talk about little errors here and there seems rather pithy. I don't want to do that. Murillo's been fantastic. And I thought that possibly he would be going in the summer, but he signed a new contract. Again, that doesn't mean anything necessarily, but he's committed his future to Forest. What a player he's turned out to be for us in the Garibaldi Red.
Yeah, the scary part, I think, for the rest of the Premier League and wherever he may end up, if he ends up leaving us in a couple of years, is the fact that he's not even scratched the surface yet. I mean, his like Scotty alluded to, his ability to assess dangerous moments and be able to fill the gap and be able to, defend the goal in particular has been remarkable. I don't know. I'd have to go and look online. Maybe Dan's already kind of logged this away because that guy's an absolute encyclopedia of stats. But I wonder how many times he's actually saved the ball off the line in the last 2 seasons. I mean, it's got to be up there for the most. I'm not saying that's something to applaud, because we shouldn't allow that to happen. But the fact that he's able to assess that, I mean, the football IQ component of most players at such young ages is something that comes a little bit slower, right? Versus the physical components. Because like Elliot Anderson, the physical talent's there, but and same thing with Murillo as well. But it's just incredible to think about how what his progression will look like after this season, continuing to understand and develop and strengthen that partnership, like Scott mentioned, with Milenkovic, because they have great chemistry, a great synergy, and it'll just be an amazing feat for us next season to see how much better they get, because he's also increased his ability to manage the air in terms of crosses and free kicks and so forth. And so that's been a huge part of his game. It's gotten I think 10% better since the season prior. So that's just great thing to see, that he's taking his craft seriously, and he's continuing to find ways to take weaknesses and make them strengths. So brilliant player. Yeah.
and a worthy person to win the Player of the Season. If you fancy Murillo, then you can vote for him on our Twitter poll that's coming out very, very soon. Let's move on to our next player and a character on and off the pitch. The chap with the cheekiest smile, the antics, the camera, the Ribena, the one and only Ola Aina, who has been an absolute revelation. And to present their thoughts on him, we have Jamie and we have Andrew.
Doing my Talking Reds Player of the Year. Now, I've gone for Ola Aina because, he signed on a free. I don't know if everyone really knew much about him. They knew that he played for Chelsea and Fulham before and he'd come up through the Cobham Academy at Chelsea. But did they think he'd be this good? I don't know. Well, I think he's been so good that he deserves Player of the Year. I know there's a lot of shouts that we definitely could have made. I've chose Ola Aina because I feel that at the moment we're certainly finding out why our fullbacks are so important to Nuno's system. And in particular, I feel that Ola Aina, his underlapping runs, his ability to kind of even go inside a little bit at times, but mostly his overlapping runs, his defensive ability, and then going forward with the ball after he wins the ball back is a massive strength, because not only does he tackle and get the ball back, he doesn't clear it, he takes it and he makes something of it, which is so important. So in terms of going forward, he offers something defensively, he offers something in the dressing room. It goes without saying that he's superb and integral to the chemistry, which has, in my opinion, made us successful this year. So Ola Aina, he's my Player of the Season. I think he's changed how this team plays. He's offered us more dimensions than we needed, or we could have imagined that we needed. And if we can keep him in, at the club over the summer and get him a new contract, that would be brilliant, because I think A, he deserves it, and B, I think Forest would be much better with him than without him. So it'll be interesting to see if we can keep hold of him. But my Player of the Year is Ola Aina. He's got a bit of everything. And for me, he's been our most consistent performer. So that's my Player of the Season for Talking Reds. Take care. Keep watching the podcast. See you soon.
Right, Player of the Season. So it's probably one of the hardest years in my lifetime supporting Forest to pick one player from the squad, because there's so many candidates. But if I had to pick one standout contributor, it would probably have to be Ola Aina. And let me tell you why. So there's a lot been said about the Forest team camaraderie and that team spirit that you see off the field. You see all, the videos of the team just goofing around at the training pitch and all that kind of stuff. And it seems to me that, there are a few other people like Callum Hudson-Odoi, Anthony Langer, they all seem like, parts of that. But it's Ola Aina that is central to that team camaraderie and that kind of that ability to have fun while you're being good. So that's one piece. And I think that's been a key part of it as well. But also, let's look back on the pitch as well. So last season, one of the big areas where we struggled was in defence. And admittedly, you could probably pick any one from that back four to be a genuine contender for Player of the Season. But for me, Ola Aina gives you more than just that defensive stability. There's been so many occasions where he's tracked back. He's been, the last man. He had that moment against, I think it was Southampton, where he cleared the ball off the line. If that ball goes in, it's 3-3 and it's a whole other conversation. But he's also contributing at the other end of the field as well. He scored that absolute banger against West Ham when we beat them 3-0. And I think that was one of those few genuine, out of your seat moments where when that ball hits the back of the net, you're literally out of the seat screaming and yelling at the TV in joy, because it was one of those explosive moments. So yeah, Ola Aina, for me, he's delivered on every single level that we needed. We're strong at the back. We're a better unit at the back, but we're also a better unit going forward with him at the back as well. For a right fullback to give you that consistency of shape and continuity, it's amazing that one player can give you all of that in one. I also think, since he got injured a few games ago, you've noticed his absence more than we've noticed other players' absences as well. So by virtue of him not being in the team and is struggling, that shows you how key and integral he is to what Forest are this season, and that style of football that Nuno's trying to embody into the team. So for me, Player of the Season, it's the slam dunk for me. It's Ola Aina, but I mean, you could literally pick a name out of the hat from the squad, and you probably wouldn't be disappointed. But for me, it's Ola Aina, Player of the Season, you Reds.
The guys are putting their cases forward for these players, and it's hard to argue. And Ola Aina, everyone is worried or has been worried that we might be losing at the end of the season. That the club have that extra year to trigger, which they're going to do. I'm not sure if they have to wait until the end of the season to do it. I don't know why, but they're on about a brand new contract for him anyway. We got to keep hold of Ola Aina, haven't we, Richard? He's just so good for the club. I mean, we know about his on the field brilliance and his off the field charm and laughter, and that kind of character with Anthony Elanga and Callum Hudson-Odoi and that trio, the three amigos, crucial for Forest, right?
It's been the case since the day one when we started seeing footage of them in the preseason. I mean, it's been the 180-degree sort of shift in terms of what they've been in the dressing room as a team, how they've reacted to Nuno, how he's reacted to them. I mean, the big boss moments coming down the tunnel, and it's just been such a huge part, as Andrew touched on. But yes, absolutely, he's a cornerstone. He's the one who drives that, I think. And in a world of social media where it can be very toxic and very difficult to deal with, and you see a lot of less than enjoyable aspects of life, he always seems to bring the joy of life up to the surface. He, as you said, he's absolutely incredible on the pitch, but he's just as dynamic and amazing off. And I'm sure it probably drives all a little bit crazy that he's got his phone everywhere and anywhere. But at the same time, it shows it. I don't know if there's anybody in the league. I mean, we don't follow other teams closely like we follow Forest, but I've just never seen a lot of videos out there in the same manner as him, really focusing in on the kind of connections that these guys have with each other. And so, yeah, it's been a huge part of that team spirit, that sort of element that soul that we talked about in previous episodes. He's at the center of that.
Absolutely. Okay, right. Our next player is someone who we don't have a video for. And that is because he was nominated by my son, Orlando. Now, Orlando had a hard think about who he wanted as player of the season. And in the end, there could only be one guy for him.
Take me on a trip I'd like to go someday. Bayern Munich, Barcelona, and Juve. I really want to spend Tuesdays with you.
Yeah, that's the Tuesday mix for European Champions League, which we're hoping for. But I think we're going to be happy with anything. Orlando wanted me to say that for him, Callum has to be player of the season because he's the only player in our team that has a trademark goal. That trademark goal is something that Orlando tries to emulate and has been emulating in his own football. He is a player that has inspired him to be better. I watch Orlando play his football now, and I can see him trying to carry the ball down the left wing and cutting inside. And, he looks up to Callum Hudson-Odoi as a role model. So for him, it really could only be Callum Hudson-Odoi, as much as he knows and has said that all the other players have been fantastic as well. But he wanted to say that Callum scored the goal away against Liverpool, which gave us such an important moment in our season. And it's not the only important thing that he's done in a Forest shirt. So I'm representing Orlando here by saying for Orlando, his player of the season is Callum Hudson-Odoi. Right. Next video. Now, Captain Marvel is a name that gets thrown at players in teams through the ages, but one of our own has stepped up, and he's been included in this list because Alan, the pub landlord of the Black Horse in Elston, the one of the organisers of the Tricky Tree Travel and friend of the podcast, he said I could only talk about Ryan Yates. So here he is.
Hence the hat. I've been asked to give you my player of the year for 2024, 2025. Greg's given me the task of doing this, so I'm going to tell you who it is, and I'm also going to give you my reasons why. By the way, I'm Alan. I own Tricky Tree Travel, been on the pod, long time listener, love it. So here we go. Yeah, I realised I could have gone for Murilo Milenkovic. I could have gone for Aina or the ever improving Nico. Certainly a back line that most Premier League teams would be happy with. I could have gone in the middle for Gibbs White, the Jordi Maradona, the standout stars Hudson-Odoi or the brilliant Anthony Elanga at opposite ends of the fields. That way, I could have gone for Matt Sells. Well done, Matt, in the middle of our goal. That way, I could have gone for Woodsy. Prolific season of his life. Well, apart from next season, I hope. But for me, my standout player of the year for this season has been Ryan Yates. I know not the most talented, not the most prolific, not the most technically gifted, not a goal scorer or that last ditch tackle at the back. But for me, Ryan Yates has got the heart of a lion. He epitomises everything that Nottingham Forest is all about in my eyes. He works tirelessly for those with more ability. And what would Cloughie say? Get the ball and give it to somebody more talented. That's how I see Ryan Yates, and he does it so well. For me, what stands out for someone like Yates is look what he did for Brighton, for the team. Obviously, not just scored the penalty, but that yellow card that got us through to the semi-finals against Man City. A fun game after every game is reading Twitter to see how many opposing fans appreciate our midfield general and would love them in this team. Some great comments. Best game ever. He's the oily rag in our Rolls Royce, I believe. You know, he gives us that little bit of sparkle. This season, he's played 34 games, started 21 with 5 games to go. I'm sure that number's only going to go one way. I think your choices will be right for this year's players. Talking Reds Player of the Year. But for me, Yates epitomises everything that I love about Nottingham Forest at the moment. Have a lovely summer. Richard, Greg, thank you for asking me to do this, and thank you for putting such a lovely community together. Have a lovely summer. Hopefully I'll see you all before the end of the season. But if not, you Reds!
What a guy. Alan Merriweather, what a
amazing
guy. And look, you know, he says it. Yates has divided opinion for years in the fan base, and he's got skin thicker than you like, Ryan Yates has, because he just doesn't care. And that Brighton moment, as Alan said, again, was absolutely magnificent. Maybe not everyone's choice for player of the season, but hard to argue with so much. In fact, anything that Alan said, right?
Yeah, you're not going to find a guy, I think, who I mean, he said the word epitomizes, so I don't want to go against that, but just sort of embodies what it means to love a club as a child, grow up, and then just defend that city ground and that brand and that badge more than anyone. And he just and he's just got such a great like spirit about him and great vibe about him, and everyone loves him and everyone gravitates towards him, and he genuinely cares. He strikes me as one of those guys, like everything you see on film, on video, is exactly the kind of human being he is at any other moment. He's just a genuine guy, and he's actually a lot more capable than I probably give him credit for too. I mean, he's disruptive. I've said it many times, that psychological warfare component, he has absolutely mastered that. And he's taken players. I mean, that game against Liverpool at Anfield, he completely took McAllister out of the game. He was a non-factor. And so that's not an easy thing to do with the kind of level of player that McAllister is on international level for Argentina. So, I mean, it takes a lot of skill and a lot of ability to do such things. So, yeah, we undersell the kind of ability he has and he possesses. So good on you, Alan. You're absolutely right. He's one of our own. He's a central figure. He is our club captain, right?
Amazing. Okay, we're moving on. And it doesn't come around often that a player in the red shirt of Nottingham Forest scores 20 goals in the Premier League, but it has happened this season, and he's been an absolute revelation. We saw it last year when his goals helped keep us up, and this year his goals have fired us into Europe. He's our favourite Kiwi. It is, of course, the New Zealand captain, Chris Wood. And here's Danscape, the stat man, along with the chief trader, Stu Freestone.
Great to see you, Stu Freestone here. As requested by Greg and Richard, just wanted to give my player of the season for the Talking Reds pod, and it is none other than Chrissy Wood, obviously, our favourite Kiwi. He scored 19 goals. He's had over 52 shots I think his overall shot accuracy is 59%, which frankly is ridiculous, isn't it? Like, I can't remember the last time we had a player that had a 59% accuracy on goal towards the end of the season. It's just must be someone like that back end of the 90s. He's been a focal point for our attack, with Callum Hudson-Odoi and Elanga feeding him balls, not just to his head like everyone expected. Yeah, he scored a few from the 6-yard area, but he's also scored some from outside the area, which nobody saw come in, and I am here for that. He has proved all the doubters wrong. He's been such a stabilising factor of our side going forward, not just how he scored the goals, but his commitment and his passion to how the club is going out and winning games. The character in there is up there with the people like Morgan Gibbs-White and our captain Ryan Yates. The passion, you can see it, the way he talks about the club. I am here for it. He is really got my vote this season, and without his goals we wouldn't be where we are, and that's a fact. He's got a few standout performances for me, but the one that stands out the most has got to be his hat-trick against Brighton when we absolutely smashed them 7-0, which is a game I am not going to forget in a long while. So that's going to be part of the reason why I'm selecting him. He's amassed over 2,600 minutes in a shirt for Forest. You know, his presence has just absolutely been a stabilising force for us. So yeah, Chrissy Wood for my player of the season. Cheese Trader out.
Hello, Talking Reds. It's Danscape. Just giving you my player of the season shout, which is this time not this guy here, but it is Chris Wood for me. He's been absolutely clinical all season. He's obviously got 19 goals, which we never expected. His goals have fired us probably 19 points more than we would have had without him. And I think that's the difference between us being, happy with a good season around mid-table and being in the top 5, potentially finishing 3rd in the league. Is Chris Wood's goal. So whilst I considered other players, Matt Sell's been brilliant, Elanga's been brilliant, Murillo's been brilliant for me, Anderson. The difference is Chris Wood. I think Chris Wood is what's potentially going to make this a magical season for us. And it's not just a great season for him. It's a great season in our history in terms of he's potentially going to be the highest scoring player for a Premier League season for us if he gets above Stan Collymore 22 goals. Across the Premier League, he's potentially going to go down as the most clinical season from a player that has ever been seen into the Premier League. So we're talking beating his XG more than anyone else. We're talking shot conversion higher than anyone else over the records these last few years. So I think it's hard to look anywhere else than Chris Wood. And it's not just his goals, but it's also the way he leads from the front, organises the press, organises the players around him. I think his experience off the pitch, he's just so cool and clinical. And I think that spreads around the team in a way that, we all perhaps earlier in the season wanted another striker, maybe a more exciting player on the ball, but they wouldn't have brought that stuff with them. They wouldn't have brought that ability to read the game and influence others, lead the team. So I think all round, he's the difference between us having an okay season and a great season. And I think back to the moments that, his highlights for me, probably the Leicester goal, where he turned and shot just all in one movement right into the corner. His goal against Everton, the nice little lob over the top. Probably the pick of the bunch for me is the goal against Liverpool with his left foot, where we had one chance in that game early on. He just gets the ball, one touch, bang, straight in the corner, in a high pressure game. And I just think that epitomises what he's been this season. He's just absolutely focused. As soon as he's on the pitch, he's just waiting for his one chance, one goal, and off we go, up the league, potentially into Europe. So let's just hope we see Chris Wood playing against Real Madrid, Juve, someone next year. I think that would cap off his redemption from when he first joined Forest and people questioned him to playing in the Champions League or in Europe for us. Whatever it is, it's been a great season for him, and I think he's definitely my pick for player of the season. Come on, you Reds.
Just worth underlining that Danscape recorded that for us before the Leicester game last week when Chris Wood bagged his 20th, and obviously then we secured the European place that we know about. What can we say when you have a player scoring 20 goals and that's the most important thing in football, isn't it? Scoring goals after all. a lot of people would say, well, look, it's not even a close race. Chris Wood is player of the season, end of story. And for us to have so many others that we're now putting forward as well is great. But if you're a striker and you've scored 20 goals in a season and you don't win player of the season, are you feeling a little bit hard done by? I don't know. I'm not. It strikes me that Chris Wood perhaps isn't that type of player. But it's hard to argue with Chris Wood, I suppose, isn't it?
Oh my gosh, yeah. And last season as well. I mean, it's carried over and gotten even better. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we didn't have him for a few games there, and we could feel it. Bless Tywell for his effort and putting in the time and energy, and Elanga putting in a shift, I think, a little bit, maybe Jota here and there as well. But yeah, he's absolutely essential to everything we're trying to do offensively. Without him, I don't think there's much we can do. That's not always a good thing, to be that sort of myopically focused on what we need in order to allow ourselves to be successful. But it just underscores, to your point and to Dan's point, how essential he is to what we do and how essential he's been to us getting to Europe this season. And so, he's sort of getting into that sort of tail end of his career. But by all accounts, based off of the performance this season, he's not slowing down, and that's okay. We'll take that every day, won't we? Every week. So yeah, he's a tremendous guy as well. Just a lot of really good guys on the squad, just good people, good men, who are doing good things and really giving the fans a lot to cheer for this season, and him number one.
Okay, we're nearly done, but there is one player that, for reasons that we don't know, and it's because there's so many to choose from, there's one player that's had an amazing season that didn't get picked by anybody. And it is quite surprising when you think that Anthony Elanga...
Tackle him! Tackle him! For God's sake, tackle him! Why aren't you tackling him?
Had an amazing season. He's scored 6 goals. He's made 10 assists. The goal against Man United that Goldbridge lost his head over, for me, is one of the standout of the season. He's been exceptional, and yet none of us chose him as our player of the season. But I wanted to talk about Anthony Elanga with you, Richard, because he's got to be in the mix. He's going to be on the poll. It would be completely wrong to not talk about Anthony Elanga, because he's been fantastic. He's so high up in the charts when it comes to assists out of all the Premier League players. He's been crucial. When he hasn't played, at times we've really noticed that we've missed that pace and we've missed that directness that we love from him. There were a couple of murmurs at the start of the season, and I'm guilty of it as well, thinking, is he going to come good? There was a so-called 50 million or so plus bid from Newcastle that we perhaps thought, should we have taken that? And it took him a little while to get going, I think, this season, or a few games at least. But he has been exceptional in terms of the way that he's operated across the front line. He hasn't just played on the right wing, he's been over on the left wing. He's played in beside Chris Wood. He's played narrower. He's played on an inside channel. The 2 goals against Ipswich away were very, very good. I've already talked about the Man United goal at home. There was the Spurs goal at home where he broke with Gibbs White. It was almost a carbon copy goal, or a template goal, if you like, from Forest. And so everything that is good in terms of an attacking sense seems to have his fingerprints all over it. He's creating a lot for Chris Wood. So, as I say, to not mention Anthony Elanga in the player of the season chat, he's not my first choice, and you'll find out who my choice is soon, but I have to mention him, and it's only right that we do that, isn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's interesting when Chris kind of slowed down a little bit and he wasn't quite scoring as much. Who stepped in? Who stepped up and filled that void? It was Anthony Elanga. And you're right. The Ipswich goal with his non-favored foot, I mean, that was absolutely incredible. I mean, that is not an easy thing to pull off. And it was a beautiful, beautiful thing to watch. But yeah, his skill set is unparalleled. There's very few in the Premier League who can manage that and can match up to that. Maybe Van de Ven maybe is one of those guys, but Outside of that, it's pretty limited. So, and he's 23. I know we've said this about a number of players on our squad. We've got a pretty decently young squad, and he's only going to get better, which is scary for the Premier League, because if he finds another gear, another level in terms of how he manages things mentally, and he gets to that 10 goal range, which I think he's capable of doing. And he got 10 assists this season. I mean, he's the leading assist guy on our squad, which is great, to see, because we don't know what's going to happen with Morgan. We'll talk about that more in future episodes, but he's going to be pivotal to us going forward. And at this stage, I don't know if I would let him go. I think that would be a travesty if we did. I just don't think it makes any sense, because the kinds of fear that he can create in the opposing team and opposing fullbacks and others on that back line is scary.
Yeah. Okay. So Anthony Elanga, well worthy as a part of this Player of the Season chat. So he's included as well. Next up, we have a video from my partner in crime, Mr. Spray, and your Player of the Season choice. Who else could it be?
Morning, guys. It's Richard from Talking Reds, just talking Player of the Season. So a lot of great candidates, a lot of great options, but probably shouldn't surprise anyone at this point, but I'm going to go with Morgan Gibbs-White. So just looking at performance level in terms of overall for the season, 24 out of 32 matches, he's been rated by FOTMob or SofaScore as 7 out of 10. 3 of those 24, he was actually over 8 out of 10, and he was the player of the match by those websites as well. So his versatility and creativity are just, man, it's hard to match it. I know Elanga's been brilliant, but Morgan Gibbs-White, in terms of the type of engine that he is for the club on the pitch, the kind of person he is off the pitch, the way that he's embraced the community, the way that he's embedded himself in that culture, and how he's become, sort of a folk hero now in our club, and what he's done for us is incredible in this season. He's 6 goals, 8 assists, so 14 goal-related actions, which is in the 80th percentile in the Premier League, which is amazing. For our starting 11, he actually has the best goal-contributing action metric. I think it's 0.62 per 90. So that's tied with Elanga, but I think he's just played incredibly well and shown that creativity like we know he has. 80th percentile for assists in the Premier League, 92nd percentile for passes in the final third, 80th percentile in the Premier League for progressive passes, 80th percentile for long ball accuracy. I think he's 91st percentile for intercepting balls and aerial duels 84th percentile for through balls and passes switching on the field of play, 90th percentile actually for blocking shots, which is pretty awesome, and 81st percentile in the Premier League for clearances. So the metrics are there, the optics are there. We all know some of the incredible passes he's had. You think about the one he just had against Leicester, that he fed the ball to Chris Wood, and that's just emblematic of the kind of guy he is and what he does for our club. He just finds ways to do things that none of the other players on the pitch can do for us. So I love the guy. I've loved him since the moment he signed him, and I've just been so grateful for the kind of contribution he's made to the club, and just what he's done for us this season, and the kind of impact he's had, and the energy he provides, and the demand that he has for other players on the pitch to be great too, which I think is great. You look at players throughout history, I think of basketball players like Kobe Bryant, Michael Jordan. Those guys just expected people around them to rise to the occasion, and Morgan does that. So, performances that we saw against Leicester, like last week, performance against Manchester United in the past, and this season, just incredible stuff. So, Morgan Gibbs-White, he's got to be, for me, the player of the season at this stage, and he's actually voted as, or at least is considered one of the players of the season, by the Premier League. So, can't argue with that.
Can't argue with that indeed. Thank you very much, Richard, putting forward Morgan Gibbs-White as your player of the season. And as you say, one of the nominees for the big award in the Premier League, along with Chris Wood, who also is nominated as well. Obviously, you just told us all about why you think he should be the player. We don't need to hear anything else. We'll go straight on to our next and final player. And this is Nikola Milenkovic, who comes as no surprise, is a player that I think should be player of the season. So you're going to hear from me first on a separate video, followed by Paul Morley and Callum Castell. Okay, so player of the season time, and it's a tough one. It's a tough one because there are so many players this season at Nottingham Forest who stake a really good claim to be the player of the season. It's not often that you've got so many candidates. The team as a whole have performed fantastically, as we all know. We couldn't be prouder. To single out individuals almost is a bit unfair, but we are where we are. Mentions, of course, must go to Matt Sells, to Chris Wood, 20 goals this season. Morgan Gibbs-White, brilliant. Anthony Elanga, the assist king. Murillo, our ox at the back, who has the finesse of Maradona on the ball. And others as well. Nico Williams, what a season he's had. But it comes as no surprise to any of you that follow me or listen to me on Talking Reds that my guy has to be the one and only Nikola Milenkovic. Nikola Milenkovic, the Serbinator, the man that's come in and solved the problem at the back. We were leaking goals at set pieces. He came in and solved that with his aerial ability and his defensive organisation and leadership. He's brought the best out of Murillo. He's brought the best out of Sells and others around him. He is a leader on and off the pitch. He's the type of player that we needed. The recruitment team did a fantastic job getting him in, and he has delivered. He's delivered massively. So it's hard, but yes, he is going to be my player of the season. I know others have different players that they would choose, but yet again, the Serbinator is the standout guy for me.
So my player of the season, I could go through the whole team, to be honest with you, the starting lineup and squad. Sells, Nico, Olorena, Murillo, Anderson, Gibbs-White, Wood, Elanga. I could go through them all and give you reasons why they would be. But I'm going to go for the player that I think has transformed the team, and that's going to be Nikola Milenkovic. I just think that he's done exactly that. I think the underlying numbers we saw with their last season under Nuno, we were still struggling with corners, aerial threat, everything like that. Just felt like we needed that big monster next to Murillo, and I didn't think we were going to buy him for £12 million. I don't think anyone thought we were going to find the perfect defender for that, but I think we have. I'm not saying that it's because of him that this has happened, but I think that everything around that sort of area is all clicked into place now because of him. I think that's what we were missing. I just think he's been sensational. I don't think it's too stupid to say that he's been the best defender in the Premier League overall. He's actually had to defend every single game. Van Dijk and Saliba and Gabriel, players like that, amazing defenders, have been. They've been the best in the league, as they always tend to be, but they don't have to defend as much as that. Our model is defending and working backwards or forwards. I think that I saw a stat as well that he's in the top 5 for aerial duel success in the Premier League with Konate and Van Dijk. I saw that he's the best in terms of duels overall, ground and aerial. He's the best in the Premier League. So for me, he's been one of the best defenders in the Premier League. I think he's our player of the season. Murillo came in and in his first season was player of the season as well. So I don't see why Milenkovic can't do the same. I just think he's absolutely amazing. So he's my player of the season.
Hi everyone at Talking Reds, Paul here. I've been asked to do a short video just to give you my thoughts on who I think is the Forest player of the season for this season. With 33 games in now, 5 to go. I think for me, lots of players to consider. Loads of players have had an absolutely fantastic season. I think for me it's probably between 2. I think and the reason I say that is if you were asked to name your strongest 11 at the end of last season, you'd probably have at least 8 names who would still be in your strongest 11 now. I think you'd have both fullbacks who've had a brilliant season. You'd have Matt Sells, who'd had obviously a fantastic season, most clean sheets in the league so far. You'd have Chris Wood up top, 19 goals this year, brilliant return for him. You'd obviously have Gibbs-White in that team, and you'd have the 2 wingers in there. Murillo as well, who was obviously our player of the season last season. I think you would obviously be nailed into that best 11 in both seasons. So for me, we've got a couple of players who've come into the side who've had such a transformational impact. And that would be Elliot Anderson, first of all, nomination, who is in the middle of the park, who I think we've seen from him just what a gem of a player he is and what a steal he was from Newcastle. I think he definitely has the potential to be, if he isn't already, certainly our most dynamic and most complete midfield player we've had since Roy Keane back in the early 90s. But for me, the player of the season has to be Nikola Milenkovic. I think not just for what he's done, but for the impact that he's had on those around him. I mentioned Murillo, who obviously was our player of the season last season, but he feels like he's grown a couple of inches, not necessarily in physical stature, but just in terms of his confidence on the pitch and the impact that playing next to Milenkovic has had on him. Similarly, Matt Sells, who showed us last season he was a safe pair of hands when he came in January. His levels have shot through the roof this season. I think that's in no small part due to the confidence that Milenkovic gives him, being in front of him. And every time you watch Milenkovic, he's just consistently pushing on the other players. He's organising, he's vocal, he's a natural leader on the pitch, and hopefully someone who can be the leader at the heart of our defence for many years to come. He's also popped up with some really important goals. I think for me, when the dust settles on this season, wherever we end up, one of the pivotal moments is that home game against Villa, and he obviously started that sort of last 5 minutes comeback with the equaliser. And I think that for me, that game was the moment where sort of hope turned into belief in terms of where we could really go this season and push for Europe, and obviously that's continued to go on ever since. And I do expect that in these last 5 games we'll need Milenkovic to have a couple more big moments, probably at both ends of the pitch, to get us over the line. So for me, despite there being lots of contenders, my man of the season for Forest this season is Nikola Milenkovic.
So, the Serbinator Nikola Milenkovic getting the votes of myself and Callum and Paul Morley, and the case has been put forward for him. He's been a colossus, Richard, hasn't he? Just a quick word on Nikola Milenkovic before we sign off.
Yeah, just a couple of quick facts. I put this out on X, but they bear repeating. So we are top 5 for scoring off set pieces and tied for 5th for the least amount of set piece goals given up in the Premier League. Our set piece goals conceded this season is 21% of what we've conceded in the previous 2 seasons combined. Our total of 16 set piece goals scored is one shy of equaling our total from the previous 2 seasons combined. And last and most importantly, total goals conceded this season, exactly 1/3 of our previous 2 seasons combined. There's no shock to anyone that he comes in and that all happens. I know Nuno has got a full preseason. He's got everybody kind of in line with the structure and the culture and the tactics and the formations and all that stuff. But if you don't think that he's had a huge impact, as Paul talked about, as Callum talked about, as you talked about on Murillo, you're crazy. His football IQ to me is unbelievable, and he's influenced everybody in terms of getting in position, knowing where to be, considering we were last in the Premier League in terms of giving up set piece goals, and now we're in the top 5. That can't be coincidental that we went from 17th in the Premier League to 7th in the Premier League. At least that's where we're at right now. So hopefully we'll be higher than that, but ultimately that's where we know we are right now. We're not going to finish any lower than that. So no coincidence to me. He's been absolutely incredible. And on the offensive side, like was mentioned, that goal against Manchester United that kicked that off. We got that in the first few minutes. I mean, it really set a tone for that match in particular, and beating them, at Old Trafford, I believe, for the first time in over 30 years. So yeah, incredible player. Absolutely. Yeah. And he could be a captain himself. I mean, there's no question.
Yeah, he's made a huge difference. We said that if we can fix the amount of goals that we leak at set pieces by a certain percentile point, we will go up in the table to a certain level, and it's far exceeded that. Okay, that wraps up this episode for the Talking Reds Player of the Season. We are leaving it over to you. We hope you've enjoyed listening to all of our contributors and ourselves chat about our amazing players. An honourable mention for Nico Dominguez, who didn't get selected. He's just got himself back into the Argentina squad. So he's had a great season as well. So he's contributed so much. And, he's my man crush. So we've got to mention Nico Dominguez. We're going to put a poll out on X, I think, in some shape or form. So look out for that, however we manage to do it, where you can vote for your player of the season. And whoever wins will be the official Talking Reds choice for player of the season. It's a tough one. It really is a tough one. So think carefully. Have a listen back if you need to the dulcet tones of the Talking Reds panelists. But for the moment, thank you very much, Richard Spray. We will be back again very soon with another episode here on Talking Reds. We'll see you soon. Come join Greg and Richard right here on Talking Red.